Great. So it is 2:02, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone again to our webinar today, held by Faegre Drinker Consulting with Predict Health and Rex Wallace Consulting on Enrollee Advisory Committees for Dually Eligible Special Needs Plans, or D-SNPs. As many of you might know, the requirement for D-SNPs to have an Enrollee Advisory Committee is new for plan year 2023. Enacted by CMS as part of the calendar year 2023 Medicare Advantage and Part D final rule. This is our second webinar this year on this important topic, and we're looking forward to diving in on the key implementation challenges, strategies for success that we've learned based on what we know so far in the first year of these requirements being in effect. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. First, this webinar is being recorded. We'll share the recording with all registrants following the webinar, and you can feel free to distribute to your colleagues and others who might be interested. And second, we'll be taking questions and answers at the end, so please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them after. We also have contact information for each of our panelists in the slide deck, so you can feel free to reach out following the webinar as well. Next slide, please. So I'm Casey Dugan. I'm the Director for Policy and Regulatory Affairs here at Faegre Drinker. I work with health plans, providers, beneficiary groups, and other stakeholders when it comes to policy, regulatory, operational issues that affect business and mission goals within the major government health programs, including Medicare, Medicaid, and ACA programs. I have some really excellent speakers here with me today from Predict Health and Rex Wallace Consulting. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them so they can introduce themselves. Shub, do you want to start?
Yes, thanks, Casey. Hi, everyone. I'm Shub. I'm with Predict Health. Predict Health is a consumer intelligence company, and we capture, augment, and analyze consumer feedback, member feedback, and make them actionable actionable insights for them for healthcare organizations, Medicare organizations, so that they can improve their outcomes and operations and performance on a number of different fronts. We work with plans of all sizes, all the way from large nationals to blues to regional plans, and have a tremendous amount of experience in EACs right from day one, implementing them, working with organizations, and interacting with a larger set of organizations who are working through their EACs individually. So really excited to be here and share some of the learnings and insights and observations that we've seen, and having a great discussion. With that, let me turn to you, Rex. Great introduction.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Casey. Hey, I'm Rex Wallace, principal of RWC. We're a strategy consulting firm working with health plans across the country to improve quality. And what that looks like sometimes is improved star ratings, and one of the ways we attack that is by building more culture and more focus around the member experience. So helping plans to understand better how to collect and analyze and listen to and act upon the voice of the member. Hugely important as we're trying to improve quality across health plans. So a really important vehicle that's currently in play to do that for certain health plans, at least, is this concept of an Enrollee Advisory Committee, which is designed to help plans listen to the voice of the member and to embed it into the plan governance. So yeah, it's an exciting part of a lot of the things that we're involved in now with Predict Health, and I'm really excited to be here today. So thanks.
Great. We can go to the next slide. So just an overview of today's presentation. I'm going to start with a little bit of background on the Enrollee Advisory Committee requirements for D-SNPs. Then I'll turn it over to Shub and Rex to get into the meat of our discussion. So we can go to the next slide, and I believe the next one after that. Great. So this slide has kind of an overview of the requirements. As I mentioned, the requirement for EACs took effect this year, plan year 2023. The requirement was finalized in the CY 2023 Medicare Advantage and Part D final rule. And specifically, it requires that all Medicare Advantage organizations or MAOs that offer a D-SNP establish one or more EACs in each state that they operate in. CED has set some broad federal parameters for the EACs, but left many details up to the individual MAO when it comes to how they wanted to design and operate their EAC. So next slide. So in terms of the federal requirements, there are two main ones. First, the EAC must have a reasonably representative sample of enrollees of the population enrolled in the dual eligible special needs plan or plans, or other individuals representing those enrollees. And second, the MAO must solicit input from the EACs on ways to improve access to covered services, coordination of services, and health equity for underserved populations, and other items of interest. Beyond these requirements, CMS is leaving many details up to the MAO, making a deliberate choice to be non-prescriptive. And in doing this, they cite their experience with similar Enrollee Advisory Committees used in Medicare, Medicaid plans or MMPs, as well as PACE organizations or Program for All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. And CMS has also recognized that MAOs may have different levels of experience when it comes to these types of enrollee advisory bodies, recognizing that, for example, some MAOs have experience setting up these committees because they are subject to similar requirements through their D-SNP contracts with the state Medicaid program or in their Medicaid lines of business. They've also acknowledged the fact that states can and do sometimes impose more prescriptive requirements through their state Medicaid agency contracts with D-SNPs. So in recognition of that variation, it turns into be pretty non-prescriptive when it comes to what they want to see from D-SNPs implementing the federal EAC requirement. So next slide, please. So they did provide some additional context to help MAOs interpret the requirements. And one of the areas where they did this was around the issue of representativeness, which is an area of great focus for a lot of plans and for Predict Health. And Shub will talk more about that momentarily. These quotes here are all from the preamble of the final rule. So CMS notes that by using the phrase representative sample, in the regulation text, they intended that D-SNPs incorporate multiple characteristics of the total enrollee population, including but not limited to geography and service area and demographic characteristics. They also note that representativeness means that steps must be taken to ensure access for enrollees with disabilities, limited English proficiency, limited literacy, including digital literacy, and lack of a meaningful access to technology and broadband, and that to the extent that the D-SNP serves members with those characteristics, CMS expects that they be reflected in the EAC membership. So some degree of guidance on this particular issue, but at the same time, CMS's choice to be non-prescriptive leaves a lot of room for interpretation in this requirement and many other elements of the EAC and how it's operated, which I know has been a challenge for plans, especially those that are working on implementing them for the first time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shub to share implementation challenges and learnings that he's observed working with to set up their EAC so far.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks, Casey. So next section, we'll go into some of the learnings and observations that we've seen from plans. So now that the rule has been in place since 1/1/23, a number of organizations have started the implementation, have experiences, good, bad, across the spectrum, as we've seen. And the insights here are drawn from interactions that we've had with organizations, many dozens of organizations that are in different stages of implementation, inbounds, or in similar meetings like these webinars and conferences, our interactions that we've had, as well as observations. And it really calls everything together. Also, a lot of the observations that we're presenting today and the learnings are more for this stage of implementation. organizations are already out of the gate. Many of them, they already have meetings in place, he started them, and they're learning very quickly. So the first set of challenges, as I mentioned, we hear a lot. Implementing EACs at organizations is not easy. It requires lots of skills coming together across different aspects of the organization. Not always are housed within the Medicare part of the organization, so you really draw on shared services within what's available, vendors, and so on and so forth. But we've put together a selection of those challenges, of course, that we've heard around implementation, what they've found to be challenging. First, right out of the gate, recruiting and panel management, just inviting people, having them show up, running the meetings. That's been hard. So we've got a number of observations around recruiting panel management, then the actual meeting itself, the meeting management, where we've seen a lot of input. And then once the meeting is held, how do you report back to within stakeholders within the organization, as well as widely to CMS and others in the organization as well to use the information. Just a few quotes now. Read out right from the left. Recruiting engagement is the hardest for those of you and those of us in the trenches. This is perennial. Engaging this section of the population tends to be hard, depending on your population itself, on your market. Every market has its own culture. You need to engage them. How do you do that? Varying levels of success. We've seen all the way from some of the largest plans struggling with engagement. They may have thousands of people or tens of thousands of people in a market in their D-SNP plan, but the EACs, they have, for whatever reason, very small numbers showing up. 1, 2, be it drop off, be it just how they engage the process. And that's challenging for a number of reasons. If you use certain reliance on channels, so one quote is, we only use emails for recruiting, but people sign up easily because it's easy to do, but most don't show up. That's another common challenge that we see, and we'll share some learnings there. Moving to the middle bucket. Our EACs, as Casey mentioned this, our EAC members in the middle are clearly not representative of the population. We don't know what to do about it. We've huge drop-off between meetings, not sure why. There's questions around accommodation. And then lastly, around we share clippings, we share videos. There's some technologies out there that's really helpful, creates buzz and excitement, but then executives want to know more. If you want to address an issue, you really want to know more and understand the context. That can be challenging. So how do you report back in a smart, effective way so you can actually act on these insights? Because ultimately, the EACs were written and used the guidelines were designed around using the insight from members for improving plan governance, for having an impact. How do you take that insight? It's a data collection mechanism after all. It's a very unique one. It's a data collection mechanism after all. And how do you take that insight, synthesize it, draw the insights back from them, and then act on it, document it for compliance reasons? So lots of challenges. This is only a selection here. I know almost everybody on this call has some or all of these in varying degrees of their organization. So we're hearing this all the time, and we'll dig into each one in detail. Rex, Casey, any others that just any comments you want to add in here?
No, we did have one. Sorry, I'll let Rex jump in, but we did have one question already in the Q&A. Is there a best practice from your experience on ideal size of a single group? Agree with the recruitment struggle. CMS has shared some resources for best practices, and there's no one answer. I think those resources kind of reflect between 8 and 15 for a meeting, although it's going to depend on your membership and how many people it takes to feel like that group is representative. So I'll stop there and let that's from the resources that they've shared. Shub and Rex might be able to share more practical best practices on the group size.
Yes, absolutely. And we have an insight around market size. Smaller markets are different. And that is a challenge, and you want to have a distinct strategy for that, and we'll talk a little bit about it. So we'll get to that point in a second.
And and if just on this slide itself, before we move on to, having been involved in the design and with you guys, Shub, with your team, and actually getting to participate in a few of these now this year. These blurbs all resonate with me. I mean, we have clients who are leveraging you and, working with us to launch these. We have some clients who are doing them on their own or with other vendors. And just a few things on the far left here. I mean, if you want 20 or if you want 12 members to show up, you can't just plan to reach out to 20 people, right? Like, a very few people are going to say yes, and then only half of those are going to actually show up, right? No matter how, we can do the best job in the world of engaging. And I think you guys do. I think you guys, every day leading up to it, right? You're kind of reaching out to these members and engaging them. Still life happens, right? And something's going to happen, and some people won't be able to show up. So you have to be able to accommodate that and plan for that. On the meetings themselves, I mean, but I've definitely realized after being in a few of these this year, they're only as successful as the amount of time you prepare for them. If it's a virtual meeting and you're not having prep sessions with every member to ensure they know how to use the technology, we've had members who joined the call and, at the last minute turned their phone sideways, but had it on lock screen. So they were inverted the entire meeting. But, having prep sessions to prevent stuff like that, right? Where they know how to use the technology, they know their Wi-Fi is strong. If you don't have those prep sessions where they remember, it's not going to be a success. And if it's an in-person meeting, I mean, I know we're going to get deep into accommodations later, but if you're not providing transportation and ensuring that transportation picks them up on time, takes them where they're supposed to go, including home after, right? Like, it's a hugely important part of this experience is ensuring that those accommodations are in place and that meeting is managed, really effectively. And it's just not something you can do on the side of your desk. And then on the reporting piece, just one comment here, because I've actually heard members in these meetings say at the end, I didn't know if this was legit. I didn't know if I should trust it, but I'm so glad I came. But now, now we'll see what you do with all this information that we gave you, right? It's like being able to report that feedback, and share it back to the members who are in the committee, and not just using it and reporting it to CMS, but reporting it back to them and helping them to understand how their voice is being heard and acted upon is critical to keep them engaged going forward. These are not one-time meetings. This is an advisory committee that recurs over time, and that reporting piece is really important back to the member. But yeah, these blurbs definitely resonate.
Great, thanks, Rex. And we'll dig into these in more detail, and some of the recommendations and observations that we have. So let's get to that right away. So here we've summarized the insights. This is a selection of the insights that we would love to share. There's a lot more. We can go deeper into every one of them. We'll explain each one in greater detail. So let me actually quickly summarize these, and then we'll spend a little bit of time going through each one. So first one, recruiting takes time, varies by market. Make sure that your internal processes are aligned and not slowing you down. And we'll talk specifically around that. To your question earlier, small markets offer unique challenges compared to larger markets. So tailor your approach for the market, for the culture, and for the needs there. Yield, as Rex mentioned, yield for meeting attendance, essentially drop off, tends to be much smaller. Well, so drop off tends to be higher. Yield tends to be smaller than expected. Make sure that you take steps to address it because it has an impact on data quality and member input. Manage the fifth one. Manage every interaction carefully. Details matter as it reflects on the brand, and we'll spend more time on this. Number 6, the member's entire experience is what matters. So think of the whole experience all the way from every touch point to the very end. Optimize it. Build community among the EAC members as it pays off both immediately and in the longer term. Number 8, provide accommodations. especially transportation, language, and technology. This comes up repeatedly, and it makes a huge difference in terms of representativeness, bringing everybody's voice in and hearing everyone and understanding them. And number 9, weigh and prioritize EAC input based on the context and representativeness of the committee. So you can make these, take the insight and share it widely. Number 10, share EAC input widely among internal stakeholders to continue to build buy-in and support at all levels of the health plan. So 10 quick insights drawn from a lot of experience. But so let's dig into each one of these and provide some detail. So the first one here, recruiting takes time, varies by market. Make sure that your internal processes are not slowing you down. So this is actually really important. So recruiting takes effort. This is engagement for a typically hard to reach, historically hard to reach population. You want to give yourself a lot of time. You want to use multiple channels. You want to use multiple marketing techniques. And all of that requires effort and processes. And then within our plans, plans obviously have historically put in checks and balances in member outreach. So how there are approval processes internally for many organizations have for written communication, for email communication, for texting. So if you are thinking about all of them and you recommend you really using multiple channels, think about the approvals, internal processes that are needed to get through them. You don't want to do it sequentially, batch it, make sure you get everything done in time. So recommendation is really start early with your communications and recruiting, find ways to accelerate the approvals, and know that you'll need more than less. So get the approvals as needed, because you don't want to be your worst enemy. You don't want to be stuck just with internal processes that prevents you from getting things out. Examples include if you want to publish something in the newsletter, there may be a month's lead time and approval time. These things don't happen overnight. So you really want to be able to factor all those pieces in. Multi-channel approach is really necessary and needed. One and done is rarely happens. You really want to find ways to engage individuals. Repeated communication builds trust. And really allays any concerns that members have, because ultimately they're taking a bet to go to a place or call into a number, share their opinion, and they need to feel that this is legit and this is right. So you really want to build that multiple communication and show that this is something that the organization is doing. It also helps with recruiting. So anybody who does marketing will tell you that multiple touch points. We were just talking to folks on the acquisition side. They say typically it takes 5 interactions for anybody to sign up. So they've all signed up with your plan. So think that way. So think getting multiple touch points to get to your recruiting numbers and targets. And then, since recruiting is hard, think long term. EACs are here to stay. It has a lot of value. You want to be able to engage individuals. Think if you are setting up your groups, initially you may try for a small period or short period as a test, but very quickly move to multi-year commitment. So engage or empanel members for multi-years. It makes it easier on you. It creates a consistency of experience, and it really helps others as well. It helps recruiting. So there's lots of good things as you move to a multi-year view, and we would encourage you to do so very quickly. Recruiting is a big thing. There's a lot of detail here, play by play. Our organization helps with this, as Rex was talking about. You need engagement, not just on the sign up or initial application. You need to keep members informed. You need to engage them all the way up to the meeting and then beyond, post meeting as well. So you're always recruiting, you're always engaging. And this takes a lot of skill and resources and time. And this is something, make sure that you start early and put that in, because otherwise you'll end up with, I think, like the first quote we had on the previous page, 1 to 2 people, and that's a wasted effort and dangerous if you rely on that data. Moving on to the second one. This is a question that came in earlier. Small markets. So all markets are different, and small markets, large markets. Every market we've seen has its unique culture, And you want to be able to meet that and understand that. Strategies for different markets will have to vary. Small markets offer very unique challenges compared to larger markets. What we're saying is one size does not fit all. So do not have the same approach for all your markets. Tailor your strategy accordingly. A counterintuitive recommendation that we see is for smaller markets, recruit large EACs. Because if there's any drop off, it has a big impact on your representativeness. So you can't have a rule of thumb saying I only want to have up to 3% or 3 people in my EAC or 5 people in my EAC. We would recommend for small markets, recruit as many as you can. Over recruit, manage engagement, and also have alternates scheduled. So your best bet in a smaller market is to go big. Takes a lot of effort, takes more effort engaging them, but it pays off. Rex, Casey, if you have any other thoughts around market cultures and how do you sort of tailor it to some of these markets?
I do on the third one, actually. Yeah. So I don't know if
so let's go there. Yeah, let's go right there. Yeah. So the third point is yield for meeting attendance often tends to be smaller than expected. That's across the board. And especially for the first year. This is new for organizations, new for members. They don't know what to expect. And as Rex mentioned, life happens. You schedule something, events, small events, triggers get really have an impact on attendance. And so you should plan for that. This is plans, think about, this is an issue all across the board. This is not just EACs, the doctor appointments, no-shows, vaccine testing for stars and quality measures that you manage. No-shows is a problem, very much so also for EACs. So there are strategies in place. There are tools that you can use. One is obviously brute force, engage them early, engage them often, really leading up to the meetings. That's one way to do it. Other ways that we've seen work well is make EAC panels larger, so meetings would be better attended, and have alternates when people drop off, being able to keep people, have others step in. Continue to engage members, even though you may have a panel, you want to engage the alternatives as well, and set expectations appropriately. People understand and are excited when we've seen a lot of excitement at the meetings, at post meetings as well. And use one of the pieces that we've seen that work well is be flexible in the mode. So you have a member, if they have to suddenly switch from in-person to virtual or stay at home, if you have the option to go quickly to virtual or hybrid, be able to switch accordingly. So offer multiple modes that allows people to be a little flexible based on their personal constraints. And that creates a challenge. And so the recommendation is if you offer multi-modes, having it done through a single vendor or a small number of vendors could be really helpful. Or a team that's working together could be really helpful, because if it is managed disparately, the connections and the handoffs can be harder. So our recommendation is if you offer multiple modes, centralize it or have the same team work on all those. So content is the same, experience is similar, and it is not broken or disjointed, because that is jarring. And data. One of the things that's not listed here is something that our team is starting to do is apply the same science that providers are using for appointment no-shows. You can start predicting. So we can start predicting who's likely to show up and not show up for whatever reason, and for what reason. Is it transportation? Is it accommodation? What have you? That you can start, if you use that predictive science, you can then get ahead of it and be intelligent about how you're supporting members, how you're recruiting members, and the resources you're providing to support them. So those are the insights. Rex, let me turn it to you, as you've seen some of this actually work in multiple formats.
Yeah, just a couple things on number 3 here, right? Because in the very bottom bullet, right? So you talked about the meeting modes, and I mean, I know we've talked to plans who are either doing virtual or in person. They're kind of, I think fearful of the hybrid mode because of the potential challenges, the potential things that could go wrong. But I can tell you, I mean, I've been in a few of these now. Everyone we've done has been, at least everyone that I've been in, has been a hybrid meeting where we were in a state and we had multiple in-person meetings in the state at the same time. So 3 or 4 different cities, depending upon the state and, the density of the population. But I was in one room, Shub was in one room, some else, other members of his team were in different cities. And we were all connected virtually from the conference room. And we had members in our room with us in person, yet we were all connected virtually to other members in rooms and some members at home who couldn't come to the facility. And it worked really well. If you have the technology, if you have the if you have the experience in leading a meeting like that, it can be really, I think it can be the best possible scenario, because that's the true definition of, of representativeness, right? Of some people aren't going to be able to travel. Some people do want to be there in person. And some of the people that were in person traveled. I think one of the members in my room traveled 2 hours via transportation. This was a rural state, right, where there wasn't a lot of density of the population, but we accommodated that. They really wanted to participate, and it was really effective. And then secondly, on that, the bullet right above it, as far as engaging members continually, what I've experienced in doing a few of these now with the Predict Health team is, they lead the engagement. And I think there are different ways to do this, right? When you're recruiting members, when you get a member to say yes, if you have a call center that's calling them and just reminding them, that's fine. And that's, that may be the best some people can do. But what I've seen work really well, at least with the Predict Health team, with our clients, is, they have one person who is connecting with a member. These members show up in the room with me, and they are looking for the person that's been calling them. And when they see them either show up in the room with us or be on screen because they're maybe in a different city, they're so excited, and it creates this warmth, right? In this, it immediately removes the barriers of, hey, I don't know anyone here. I don't know if I should be here. It's this immediate connection with, oh my God, you're the one that's been calling me. I'm so glad to finally meet you, because they've been talking maybe every day for a week. And this is a person who coordinated their transportation and kept reminding them of what time it was. And it's just I think, a really important part of creating warmth and removing barriers and making a more productive discussion, where they're not afraid anyway. They're going to say what's on their mind. That's why they came. But it makes it a much more effective conversation when there's that warmth, and they feel like they already know these people and they're going to listen to them for sure. So I just think it's a best practice that I've seen play out really well and make these meetings better and better.
Having a friend always helps. That's gets
right.
the ball
Yeah.
rolling. One of the challenges in the point that you're making around the yield is small market, large market. When you do have drop off, it really affects data quality, and that takes us to our next point around representativeness. And I want to give you an example from history, and this some of you may already know this. This is 1936 presidential election between Franklin and Franklin Roosevelt and Alf Landon. And this was when polling, 1936, polling was still in its infancy, and very much of interest. And the popular magazine Literary Digest conducted, here is written on the right-hand side, conducted an enormous pre-election poll. Very much like it happens today, but this was probably one of the largest of its time, with 2 million responses. So think about the effort, the time, the cost that went into collecting this data. They went for the largest data set. And the data that they got, Literary Digest predicted that Alf Landon would defeat FDR 57 to 43%, pretty sort of overwhelmingly and convincingly. However, on election day, Roosevelt won with 60% of the vote, of the popular vote. And everybody was scratching their heads. How did Literary Digest, who took all this effort, all this cost and time, to collect such a large sample, how did they get led astray with that data? It was on paper pretty comprehensive. The issue was really around data quality, and the issue is that the data was not representative of the true voters. So, for example, they had used just how they sourced the people. For convenience, the data that they used, the data sources were telephonic. So they reached out to people with by phone, and they reached out to people with using the motor vehicle registration cards. And so this right away actually should give you an indication. It biased the sample, because if you're a statistician or a data collector, those two criteria, telephones and motor vehicles, tend to skew slightly richer, and it went to a segment of the population. And that was, as a result, their sample, 2 million, was still biased and not representative of the national voting population. So bad data led to incorrect conclusions, and think of all the cost and effort and time that was spent for the head fake. And so we run the risk here, exactly the same issue. So you putting together an EAC, putting together this group of members is hard. It takes a lot of effort. It's a big commitment of time, your executive time, the company's time. If you don't have a representative sample, the data that you're collecting will be biased or difficult to use and difficult to interpret. So that example that we have from the quote, 1 to 2 people showing up in a meeting when you have thousands of people in your market, you really cannot do much with that. It's a single interaction. How do you draw conclusions? And the problem is the risk that you run, running and drawing incorrect conclusions can be really problematic, especially in terms of health equity, especially in terms of fairness, and some of the plan design choices and plan design service decisions that you're making as a plan. Takes us to our fourth observation. It's really, really important to think hard about the quality of data that you're getting. Think about the representativeness of your EAC or EAC members, and that is needed not just to meet the CMS guidelines as they call for representative EAC membership, but really about the quality of data and the member input that you're collecting. So if you're doing this, do it right, and spend some time really thinking about what is the data that you're pulling in, understand the characteristics of your population. So one of the challenges that, so our recommendations are really to get a representative population. First, you need to know what your population looks like. You really need to understand what are the characteristics of your population in that market. Very often, and we've seen this not just in interactions, historically, organizations do not have great rosters or details around membership beyond the name and address and some of the limited information. How do you collect that data? You may collect that during interactions, but you don't have it for everybody. So if you're looking at a full population, you need to understand their characteristics. You need to be able to find ways to augment the data that you already have, fill gaps. Often that may mean going to third parties, vendors, organizations. Our organization has a lot of the data. We can fill those gaps and even augment what you already have. Sometimes data is also dated. You want to update that. That can be helpful. So really essentially cleaning up or augmenting the data that you already have gives you a better picture of your sample, of your population. Based on that, now you can come up with your own sample and understand what would be representative. We've seen organizations consider special surveys of EAC members or larger surveys of EAC members. You already have channels that you're collecting data, maybe through CAP surveys that you have. You may have some demographic information, so use that smartly or use that more effectively if it's in a specific market or a specific area. That could be helpful to understand and improve your data quality. And then finally, use analytics. Analytics is your friend. You can help identify who to target, who would be representative of your population that you now know the characteristics of, and allow you to find not just target members, but also alternatives. So you have a backup should things change. So really think hard about understanding your population and then building the representative population as a result. And this is worth the investment, because as you already see, CMS is adding a new support and focus around understanding your members more in greater detail. So EACs is one step. It allows you to collect some data. New rules on health equity will require you to collect certain types of information that you don't already have. How do you set yourself up for that data collection? It's not just one and done. It's really a series of different rules and requirements that are coming your way that you really need to invest and think about. How well do you know your member? And how well do you know your market that are of folks who've already signed up, and how do you serve them? All that will come up. So this is a key piece. Understand that having a representative EAC is imperative to ensuring data quality, and then using and getting your member feedback, and then using that data to make decisions for your plan. Rex, Casey, anything you'd like to add? Augment?
I would just say, it's the whole, measure twice, cut once, right? It's that this is absolutely a compliance requirement, but this absolutely should not be treated like a check the box, compliance requirement. This should be, this has tremendous potential to give you feedback that's going to positively impact your plan. But if you don't invest in it and prepare for it and ensure you're getting the right members and enough members and the right sample of members that reflect your population, then it's not going to help. So this is, I think this is the most important piece, right? Is ensuring you get enough members and the right members to show up and to give their feedback, and then everything else is determined by that group that you get to show up, that you select and recruit and identify based on the representativeness of your population, et cetera. So I think by far it's the most important piece.
Great. Moving to the next one, I just realized we're at 42 minutes past the hour, so we need to move through. We can spend the whole day talking about this. So, but let's move on to number 5. Manage every interaction as it reflects on the brand. So this is actually really, really important. Something that you all know, and we hear it repeatedly. Often this is the only time that a member will interact with the plan across the year or across the entire tenure. So you want to make sure that interaction is a high quality and reflective of your brand. So really take care of it. Every interaction, think about the entire experience. So this is a retail product in a sense. You're really thinking about first email, the communication, the outreach, every interaction, the reminders, the follow-up. Is reflective of how they view you, how they think about you, and this would have a big impression on how they think about the company. So take care and spend a lot of time on it. This is where there are resources within the organization, outside the organization, can help you think through the interactions and improving and optimizing it. But this really matters. And I know, Rex, you've experienced in this. Love your perspective,
Yeah, and actually, I have some more. Just in the interest of time, do you want to go ahead and address this one, and I'll maybe just say it all when I get to that other slide.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the next one is related, which is in member experience. So not only is it the only time they may interact with you, details matter. So every detail, think of it as it's event planning or this entire engagement. You really think about all the way from the quality of the food to the transportation, as Rex mentioned, not just picking them up for the meeting if they requested it or they need it. It's a combination really to dropping back off. Is it done smoothly? If they need assistance, is that assistance provided? All those pieces matter. And it builds an entire understanding and experience for how they will view the organization, the EACs, and when it comes for the second meeting and the subsequent meeting, all this will factor into the attendance. So think of the experience and every interaction, because details matter and it pays off to invest there. Moving on to the 7th one, build a community. We touched on this early. Part of the experience is obviously interacting with you, interacting in the room, but a big part is really also interacting with each other. And we've seen this is something that plans that encourage it builds a lot of affinity back and positive trust back for the organization, but also with each other. This becomes they get to know not only the EAC hosts and folks, but really each other. And this may be something they'll revisit when they come back, maybe at the next meeting. They help each other say, oh, I have this issue. I use this resource, this vendor, that vendor. So there's a lot of in the meeting support that you should embrace, and it really builds trust. It builds folks coming back, and it's something that they will remember. Very positive in economics, it's externalities, but very positive effects around investing in the community, as it will help with the immediate meeting, but also subsequent retention and growth and recommendations. And then the next one on this page is really important. We've seen, I couldn't stress enough, accommodation. So tying back to representativeness of your population, if you would like to hear everybody's voice, and we recommend doing so, and it's required in the guidelines, you want to be able to provide the accommodations that are necessary that will help bring in the groups that are either underserved or underreached. Accommodations, the most important ones we've seen repeatedly, transportation. It is crucial, and there's a lot of variation in the quality of transportation service and support provided across states, across markets. So really make sure that you know the vendors and how and the experiences there when using accommodation, transportation. Language is a big one. We recommend, and we've seen better experiences when you split markets out with languages, split meetings out, so it's consistent language. But size and scope and scale will determine your choices, but provide language support to bring and draw in segments of your population that you may not otherwise reach. And then technology. Technology is key. There's different digital literacy is a challenge for the population, regardless of what some of the recent surveys that we see in the news media. Is not characteristic or reflective of the population. So consistently, when you look at the data, digital literacy is a challenge for the population. Computer ownership tends to be lower, tends to be digital technology access. If you may rely on just on those who are folks who already have computers or have full digital literacy, you will be biasing your sample. So to be truly representative, this is an accommodation that is necessary to bring out and hear other perspectives. And this has implications for not just for the EACs, but some of the decisions you're making around the vendor selections you're doing, plan design elements that you're putting in place, as well as health equity that requires improved digital literacy and access to resources. So technology is important. When you're offering technology as an accommodation, it's not just a device. Really think about the support provided. So Rex had an example about technology can be a friend, but it has to be supported well, and that support should bring in an element of education as well. Digital support for the population. We've seen that work best, and this is best done. Folks who are experienced handling devices for the population and support for the population. And we would recommend investing the time, building those relationships, finding the partners who can help you with doing it, because I cannot stress how important this is. Rex? We have two more. I think we
can. Go ahead and finish up, and then
And the last two are really on reporting. So what we see is in folks having multiple meetings, folks having meetings across different markets, organizations having meetings across different markets. One of the challenges that you face is how do you compare results, insights from meeting to meeting, insight issue to issue? How do you stack rank them? How do you understand where to prioritize as an organization to invest your resources? If you've got a single market, that's great, and you're having one meeting. But if you're having multiple meetings, how does that compare, especially over time as well? How do you know you're improving? So this comes back to the representativeness and having data around your population. So we would recommend you weighing and prioritizing your EAC input based on the context. So who's saying it? How representative are they? Remember, their opinions are individual experiences, but they're also representative. So really, how do you draw those insights out? And this requires really looking at requires experience. How do you take insights from meetings, draw the key, most important ones that are actionables, that are prioritized for the organization to act on, and how you document that and support that not only for compliance reasons but also for business reasons that you can share internally with your organization. You need more than quotes. Quotes is helpful to provide a succinct viewpoint and experience, but really you want to provide context around it and allow you to enter some of the details so organizations, executives, operators can make decisions and take action as a result. And often when you don't have enough context, you may want to follow up. So shouldn't fear following up with the members. If you have that engagement, if you have that relationship with the member or the group of members, following up is a possibility and would be welcome. And so that's something that don't forget. So that is a tool that you can use. Again, you want to be able to put that all together when you're drawing out the insights back for your organization to take action. And then finally, the 10th point here we wanted to share is EACs is in its infancy. We're in the first year. Organizations are just figuring out sort of how to implement these, but really what you're going to do or how you're going to use some of these insights. Very quickly, organizations are realizing that this is an amazing channel into unfiltered member feedback. So how do you get those insights and how do you build that buy-in across stakeholders in the organization, maybe beyond the group that you've already interacted with in year one? So our recommendation and insight is really share the EAC input widely, the feedback that you get widely among internal stakeholders. And this will continue to help not only build buy-in and support for the EACs, but will uncover new use cases for you. If there are new topics that you want to identify and probe based on the timing of your meetings or locations, that would be appropriate for segments of our population. This becomes a strategic choice as well, and can be helpful for the organizations. You think about how do you improve your plan governance, how do you improve the member feedback, improving your product and your experience. That's what we had. So here, right here into 10. Rex, let me summarize and turn over to you. And that's 54, 6 minutes to go.
Yeah. Do you want me to actually do the next slide and just walk through real fast a lot of these in sort of a case study? And I'll do this in 60 seconds, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So so those are the insights that we pulled. There's a lot more and detail and experience that we have working with organizations, interacting with organizations, interacting with members, running meetings, the EACs, as well as running other building communities of Medicare members and collecting insight and influencing outcomes such as retention and member experience for plans. So we put together a comprehensive set of resources that we can help plans across the entire spectrum of their EAC offerings or EAC needs, all the way from project scoping and strategy, if you're doing this for the first time, or you want to take a step back and think about what do you really want to achieve with your EACs. So that's essential, knowing what the target is, knowing where you want to go. So project scoping and strategy. The next step is, once you have that, how do you operate a meeting? So that requires really member identification, prospect identification, recruiting, panel management. There are a number of steps under each of those, and these are just a selection of them. Once you have a panel, a group in panel, how do you manage the meeting? Handling meeting location, the logistics, the accommodations, the modal aspect of it, virtual, hybrid, in-person, transportation, device management and training and support, and then documenting everything that happens in the meeting itself. So how do you capture the feedback in a way that's recorded, but also then you could pull insights out of it. And that takes us to the fourth one, which is really the big thing is reporting back. So how do you capture the insight, the data, and how do you share that within the organization, store it for further use, and then for compliance reporting as well. lots of steps here. There are thousands of hours spent if you have to do it by yourself. Our organization has learned and across organizations and implementing best practices, and really we're working with organizations regardless across their different needs. So some organizations, if you have an a la carte need here on the left-hand side, you have an existing team, you've worked with, you've implemented maybe in the Medicaid side, similar meetings or MAC groups, but you need focus on retention or attraction for recruiting for the EACs or reporting or analysis. You could pick some of those services or choose the capabilities that your organization needs, all the way to full service where your team's already stretched out. There's a new set of resources and needs for your organization. Predict Health with our various partners can help you deliver your EACs for your organization. And then there is a group in the middle, which is blended, where some of these services are shared. And organization can pick, and this can change over time. And we've seen that happen and evolve. And it's really exciting to see how EACs have evolved from day one, from both the member side, but also from the organizational side, and the importance organizations are putting on it, and recognizing that this is a window and a pulse of the membership that you didn't have before. And none of the current data collection mechanisms of aggregate surveys and anonymous surveys do justice to. This gives you unfiltered view on issues that come up in local markets at the time of your choosing, and you could help collect that data and use that insight to really improve that experience in that market and for the organization. And you can pick and choose, but really the idea is delivering the EACs in a compliant way that's effective that's worth your time, worth your organization's effort, and pays off for the members and the organization.
Yeah, having someone who has been doing this for a year now, right, or longer, as far as it understands the regulations. I mean, our clients who are leveraging Predict Health and we're able to work with them to help design these. Like I feel like they're going so well and it's a company who is so focused on this, almost completely focused on this right now, right? Helping plans understand, should I do, what mode should I use? How many meetings should I have in the state? How many members do I need in each meeting? Right? What about languages to accommodate? And then helping to identify and recruit the members in a very effective way. Meeting management, as far as, even things we've learned along the way, like let's give them lunch in a box, like a Jason's Deli, something, right? Because they're going to want to take it home. They're not going to eat it all. They're going to want to take it home. And if you have this buffet assembly line, it's just more complicated and it's hard to get to-go food for them to take it home. Little things like that make the meeting so much smoother and so much more effective, but you have to have kind of gone through this a lot to really understand it. I know we have like 1 minute left and we have several questions, so I'll turn it back to Casey.
Yeah, so I've been able to answer a couple of our questions in the chat and the Q&A. So you should be able to see that, and they should be reflected in the recording. But one thing that I will point out, just because we're nearing the end of time, is that we actually did a webinar on best practices, specifically focused on best practices for EACs. So if you're interested, as an audience member, I'd be happy to circulate the recording from that webinar as well. That was, I think, last September, so right around this time last year. It's got some good incentives for how you can structure incentives for enrollee participation. It's got insights on a little bit more on best practices for accommodations, as well as a range of other topics. So I'm happy to circulate that webinar in addition to this one as well. I think I'll stop there. I'll let everyone go. But again, our contact information is shared in the slide deck. And you should feel free to reach out, and I'll reach out separately with some additional best practices for those of you who asked about them. Shubrex, anything to take us home to wrap us up?
Rex.
Go ahead, Shub.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much. There is what we presented here today is just a selection of some of the insights. We can go deep on any one of them. There is every one of them. There's a lot here. It comes down to really thinking about why your organization is doing it, and if you're doing it, do it right. Put in the effort to make sure the data quality is right, and then think about the member experience. It requires wearing a number of different hats and resources, and it's hard for any organization to do by themselves. And we've seen a lot of experience, built a lot of experience in managing those details for organizations, and that pays off. So happy to help, happy to refer, happy to connect with, answer any questions you may have as you are working through the throes of the EAC. It's very rewarding when you're getting it right. There's a lot of work to be done, and we fully understand, but we're here to help. And we have a tremendous amount of resources and expertise on not just implementing them, but then using the data and improving quality, improving your stars, improving your retention outcomes. Because that is the why eventually, and we can help with that as well. Thank you all. And thank you. And the recording will be available, and we'll be here to answer any questions you have.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Rex. Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.